From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, and man, am I excited that you have taken the opportunity to download the show, stream it online, stream it on Facebook, stream it on YouTube, wherever you found us, however you found us. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us, man. You guys are awesome. Without you listeners, we would not have a podcast. So I want to thank you so much again for tuning in and checking us out and seeing what we have to offer today. So this podcast is going to be a dive into something different that I've not done before, and that's going to be public land hunting, because it's in the off season. There's time for squirrels and rabbits and small game like that. There's time for hogs and a lot of off-season pursuits like that, with all the seasons kind of winding down, if you will. But I basically just wanted to have Trever Bryan and Jeremy Beaston on the podcast this week, because they are hosts of the Cast, Blast, Grill, Chill podcast, and I think about them often when I grill and chill, and I listen to their show on a regular basis, and they've got a great podcast, just two guys, very authentic, very genuine, talking about the hunting and fishing lifestyle and just everything that has to do with public land hunting. And I've really honored them for a while for doing that, because they tell the good, the bad, and the ugly on their show about, you know, other hunters setting on top of them, or you know, encountering other hunters that aren't very happy, you know, that they're in their spot and that kind of stuff. I mean, they just do a really good job of working things out and making new friends and just really, you know, representing the outdoors well. So wanted to definitely have them on. So we're doing another three-way call like I did with Nag and Prowler a few episodes ago. And boy, this is fun. So I really enjoy having these guys on, and I look forward to being on their show one of these days too. So here's my interview with Mr. Trever Bryan and Jeremy Beaston from the Cast, Blast, Grill, Chill podcast. Here we go. So joining me on the phone is Mr. Trever Bryan and Jeremy Beaston. How are you guys doing this morning, this afternoon, this evening, I should say?
Doing good.
Good. Both of you guys are on. That's great. It's great to have you guys on the show. So you guys host the Cast, Blast, Grill, Chill podcast, and I became a listener of that show, I want to say about 3 or 4 months ago when you guys first launched it. I noticed you guys post on social media like I do, and I just got intrigued by the show because y'all cover public land hunting quite a bit, and I kind of thought that's an interesting topic, so I wanted to have you guys on the show. Trever, tell me, or no, Jeremy, you first. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm 36 years old, self-taught public land hunter. Didn't really have anybody teach me how to hunt growing up. Didn't really have a lot of places to go. Fished from the time I was old enough to walk, and was always interested in hunting, but never really had an in. By the time I got into high school, I had some buddies and stuff, and they, you know, took me out to their place dove hunting and stuff like that, but that was really the only opportunity I had really to go hunting. So I got to digging around on the internet and asking around, and I figured out that for $48 you could buy your annual hunting permit, and it opened up a whole bunch of land, you know, to everything from doves, turkey, whitetail, etc. And proceeded to kind of dive in headfirst from there. Started out hunting doves and on public, and have expanded out now to hunt just about everything that, you know, not a draw tag in Texas, with the exception of turkey, which I'm planning on fixing this year.
Cool. No,
all on public.
All on public land, and that's why I wanted to have you guys on, because that's something we haven't covered much. My only experience with public land is government land. When I first started hunting as an adult in here in Central Texas, I used to go up to Fort Hood. I mean, I would pound that pavement every week, every weekend to get up there between my job duties and hustle, and it was rough. But I mean, you guys aren't afraid on your podcast to talk about, you know, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. You know, it's kind of cool to listen to you guys. Trever, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I want to start out by saying that Jeremy and I are cousins. So
cousins,
we grew
okay.
Up fishing together.
Cool.
Yeah, we grew up fishing together, and like he said, fishing since the time we could both walk. And he's a little bit older than I am, so you know, he taught me a few things along the way. And when we started the podcast, you know, we were already hunting public, and I think that just makes us, you know, a little bit little bit stronger of a hunter, but it sets us back in some other points. But I'm sure we'll talk about most of that, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like you said.
Sure, and that's what I appreciate about y'all's show is it's just a conversation between two dudes that are just talking about enjoying the outdoors. And the other day I was grilling and chilling, and I thought about you guys, so y'all appear in my mind quite frequently because I'm like, man, those guys are really, your show is real authentic is what I'm trying to say. And I always tell podcasters that I'm starting out with that, that I'm mentoring that, that's what you really have to have is an authentic message of just, being a down-to-earth kind of guy. And that's what you guys both are. That's what I honor about both of y'all.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where the idea from our podcast came, is because me and Trevor both used to, both drive trucks, for our jobs pretty much all day. And, to kill time in between stops, we'd call and talk hunting. And I was like, why don't we start recording this? It's campfire conversation. And, we can record these conversations because I feel like, there's not really anything that's talking, Texas hunting in a campfire, kind of manner.
No, that makes sense. And I mean, that's what I've really enjoyed about y'all's show. And I listen to just about every episode I can. I'm behind on my podcast listening right now because I haven't had a lot of road trip and a lot of windshield time, but I plan to get caught up here pretty soon. And you guys have some great things happening with your show right now. Why don't y'all tell us something about that?
Well, we just started a collaboration with a group called East Texas Hunting Club. They're actually a Facebook page. So
yes,
that's kind of our newest announcement. And it's a great group of guys. I'll give them a little plug here and just say that, anybody that goes to East Texas to hunt or is thinking about going to East Texas to hunt, they're going to accept you with open arms. And, there's such knowledgeable guys that, they'll get on there and answer any questions that you have. And so that was cool to be able to work with Josh on that and, just kind of open the doorway between the two on Facebook and, give them a voice of sorts. And, they have so many people that are taxidermists, running dogs, stuff like that,
right.
We'd love to talk to and, just kind of get the word out, people that work it and live it every day. And,
sure.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I've liked, both of you guys. I mean, this is my second three-way call that I've done on a podcast, but the one thing I like about the Cast Blast Grill Chill mindset is that it's about the lifestyle. It's not just about going and killing and catching and everything. And, I edited an article for Jeremy not long ago for, about chasing a limit, and it's not all about that. It's about the outdoor lifestyle. It's about conservation. It's about, getting youth involved. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it. Don't y'all agree?
Completely.
At 100%.
Yeah, so that's great. And so I wanted to just dive into public land hunting in Texas. Obviously, you need the annual public hunting permit, which is, what, $49? Am I right about that, guys?
Yeah, I think it's $48.
$48. Okay, $48. Okay, cool. And that comes with a regulations booklet and just kind of a booklet that gets you started with your basic hunting land opportunities. Some of the land I understand is leased land by the state, and then some of the land is just, WMAs, public land, that kind of stuff. Would y'all like to go into detail about that?
Yeah, I'll go a little bit into what TPWD actually has on their website.
Sure.
If you look up hunting lands on there,
mm-hmm.
Under the annual hunting permit, they actually disclose it as lease from private landowners.
Okay, that's what I meant to say.
And you said it correctly. But they do include in the booklet that you give that you mentioned as well. Other WMAs and other public lands that are also included in there. But on their website, it just does say that it's the state is leasing land from private landowners. But I think that's an awesome program. It benefits the landowner. And it also benefits the public to be able to use it for $48 a year. And I don't even know how many acres of public land it is, but it's quite a few.
Well, the nice thing I've said also about Texas is that we don't have, draw system or lottery unless you're in some of the big time public land like the oryx hunts and those kind of big time exotics and big game hunts that they have that I've put in for the draw for many years over time. But, the cool thing is that we don't have an elk draw. You can shoot elk free range. In fact, not really necessarily free range, but high fence. I just filmed a hunt that I showed both of you guys, y'all previewed, that I just went live with today about a 6x6 trophy bull elk that we shot on DB Hunting Ranch. So there's a lot of opportunities like that in hunting ranches and places like that. But I mean, the thing a lot of people don't think about is it's a gold mine for public land opportunities out there, right?
Yeah, Texas doesn't have a lot percentage-wise,
right?
Public land, but there's, Texas is a big state, so 3% of public land is a fair amount, and there's other opportunities out there besides just the $48 annual hunting permit, which opens up the private lease lands and the WMAs, what they used to call Type 2.
Sure.
There's also core land, like you mentioned earlier, Fort Hood, and those are all separate permits and stuff that you have to draw. And the information's out there. You just got to kind of dig down deep enough to figure out where it is and what it is. And there's some incredible opportunities out there to hunt public in Texas if you just do the research and dig it out.
Right. Right. No, that's good. And that's solid information I want to share with our listeners, because this is something that that I think is good, especially for guys like me and you guys that are on a budget, that don't have a ton of money to spend on a $4,000 elk hunt or anything like that, but want to enjoy the outdoor lifestyle and go after native species and hogs and those kind of things. And you guys talk so candidly about the challenges of public land, but also the triumphs of public land. In the Sam Houston National Forest, y'all recently, I forget which one of you recently hunted that.
We both hunted every year. I was recently at the Davy Crockett National Forest.
Okay. And
you
took
bit north of Sam Houston.
Trever, you took that muzzleloader doe, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was you. Okay, I get you too confused sometimes, so I apologize. But that was a really cool story that you talked about as far as the the weather and everything else going on. But that's one thing I like about what you guys say on your show, is that it's the good and the bad and the ugly, and you take it all and you run with it, and I think that's really cool.
That doesn't just have to be on public land. That can be on leased land or anywhere.
Sure.
You're going to have bad days, you're going to have struggles, and I think that's why I hunt for the most part, is the unknown, and it just makes the goal that much more sweet when you obtain it.
Super. And you guys mainly hunt Central and East Texas, is that correct, or y'all go north much?
That is correct.
Yeah, it's mostly Central, East Texas, and the Coastal Bend.
Coastal Bend, that's what I meant to say too. Yeah, that's what I meant with East Texas, sorry.
But yeah, we also get down on the coast in the bays and different coastal marshes for ducks.
Okay.
During duck season, we're kind of equal opportunity and opportunistic when it comes, to hunting opportunities. Being that I'd say we're probably 95+%, public land hunters.
Right.
Aside from a few invites we get here and there.
Sure.
For the most part, if we see something that looks promising, we got to get our boots on the ground, canoes in the water, kayaks in the water, boats in the water.
Sure.
And go find it and get after it. Public land is it's not like a lease where you can put out a feeder and have the deer come to you. You got to go to them. So you got to get your boots on the ground and get out there and do your scouting and put the whole picture together, to be successful in your hunts.
No, that's good, and that's what I wanted to talk about this. Go ahead, please go on. Keep going.
Okay, and that's what a lot of people, in the West, they get to talking about access for their public lands. And, Texas, we really don't have an issue with access as much as we just do the amount of public lands that we have.
Right.
And Jeremy, like you touched on, 3% is big in Texas.
Right.
It may not be big somewhere else, but we don't have a lot of, little chunks of landlocked, privately locked public land. So our access is relatively good.
That's a good point to make. I mean, the thing I was going to say is that we're 97% private owned on the other side of that 3%. And the public land's kind of spotty in certain places, but it's still ample and it's still opportunistic, as you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dustin, when I was trying to think about, the direction that this was going to go, I did want to kind of touch on, maybe some of the things that people have heard about public that may turn them off.
Sure.
And may, make them hesitate about it, and the biggest thing that I think most people hear about first is the overcrowding. Right. What we do is just, go further, go a little bit further away from the other people. It's as simple as that. But, sometimes you have to deal with some other people, and that's okay. That's what your bright orange is for, so they don't, shoot you in the kneecap.
Sure. Sure. No, I get that.
And it can be bad on certain areas, but it's just something that comes with the public, and you'll learn to deal with it. And sometimes it'll anger you, but other times it could work in your advantage. If you go somewhere where the pressure's off and that's the only spot that, let's say, that you're hunting deer and the deer have to go to, then they're going to deer drive it right to you. You know, you just have to work it in your favor.
Sure. No, I get that. And that all being said, I was also going to mention that y'all told stories on your show about how, you know, you've been set up on top of somebody, you know, or somebody set up on top of you more than likely. And that kind of stuff's common sometimes, isn't it? You just learn to live with it.
Yeah. When it comes to being set up on, I mean, it's an inevitability on public, you know, unless you're just, you know, in a place that's virtually impossible to get to. Sure. And like you said, you learn to deal with it and you learn to adapt. I mean, there's some times where, you know, you just grin and bear it. The other thing you can do is, I've done it many times, is, you know, especially duck hunting, is, you know, if a solo guy or a pair of guys walks in, you know, rather than trying to fight over the, you know, the same duck hole, invite them to come hunt with you. You know, you could make a friend out of it. You know, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. And there's other times that I've just picked up my stuff and left, because it's not worth, you know, getting into an argument and a fist fight over, you know, a spot to hunt. You know, you can pick your stuff up and go, you know, another half mile, another quarter mile, go find someplace else, or, you know, just call it a day and go hit the Whataburger up and go get your sausage biscuit.
Yeah, Jeremy, and I don't know if we told the story of our, I think it was of the last weekend of duck season, even on our podcast, where we had a group of guys come in and we had already been there, you know, for 2 hours, got a blind set up, just kind of hanging out, having a good time. You, myself, and my dad. And we had a couple of guys walk in. We hit him with the flashlight just to let them know that we were there. Then he starts cussing up a storm and, you know, cussing us out and saying, you know, all kinds of profanity. And then he starts, you know, getting mad and walking off. What if they would have been nice, we would have definitely invited them to come hunt with us, because the pond was too small to, you know, have multiple groups. But yeah, we would have absolutely either invited them to come hunt with us or pointed them in the direction that we knew that there was not another hunter. There's plenty of space behind us.
Well, yeah, because I mean, remember that morning, you know, for one of the first times all year, we actually got beat, and I walked over, you know, to go find where that other guy was and let him know that, hey, we're not going to set up on top of you. We're going to set up over here, and we'll leave a buffer zone in between the two of us.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, with that knowledge, if they wouldn't have come in with a bad attitude, it could have been so much better for them, because I think they got pushed out in a real bad spot. And that's another thing about, you know, getting walked up on. I get angry. I'm guilty of it. But, you know, I had another instance this year where I beat somebody to their own spot, and I was set up 20 yards off of their stand. And they came in after I did. Granted, I beat them to it, but I left because they already had a stand. So I had to make that judgment call. So, you know, and I was nice about it. The guy was like, you know, when we met back up at the truck, he's like, hey, thanks for, you know, apologizing when we crossed paths earlier. You know, that was a real great thing for you to do. I was like, you know, it's just the ethics of it. You got to think it through and not make enemies out there.
Well, you want to be constructive and all that. I mean, I get that, because I ran into that when I hunted government land. I dealt one time with, and I have not told this story, I don't think, on the show before, but I dealt with the guy that was they have like volunteer guides at Fort Hood, or back when I hunted there 14 years ago, at least they did. And basically one of the guys was very, you know, hasty with everything, very upset about, you know, oh, I shot a button buck and I burned one of my buck tags and I really wanted to shoot a doe. I mean, he just had the worst attitude for hunting that there was, and it almost turned me off the sport completely. If I didn't really stick with it and do this outdoor industry thing like I wanted to, I don't know if I'd still be a hunter today because of him. So you never know who you're going to encounter, who you're going to turn on or turn off.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Dustin, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're having this podcast now, and I'm glad you're still hunting, man, because I really enjoy your content.
No, thank you.
I'm thankful that he didn't completely turn you off.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where he was just a total jerk about it. And you're going to find that in any place you go, any sport you pursue. You know, you're going to find guys that are kind of the naysayers and that are not the shining examples that we need. But the reason I like y'all so much is that y'all have the whole concept is, let's work together on this deal.
Absolutely. I think you have to.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, because I mean, we're losing hunters every year, and you know, one of the biggest problems, you know, that you always hear that people talk about is access and lease prices, and this, you know, that I don't have any place to hunt anymore. That, oh, you know, when Grandpa died, you know, the farm got split up and sold off, and this, that, and the other. we basically wanted to put a podcast out there, emphasizing the importance of, public lands and saying, hey, you don't have to have a $2,500 a year deer lease
Yes.
and a $2,000 a year duck lease to get out there and, have a good time in the outdoors and, build that outdoor fellowship between, your fellow man, your kids, your neighbors, your neighbors' kids. Just, what was it, 2 weekends ago, Trevor? We took my kids out there to a little bit of public and went out there chasing squirrels. I mean, it doesn't always have to be big game. There's plenty of small game, squirrels, rabbits, like
Hogs.
I said, I chase a lot of waterfowl,
Yep.
hogs.
Yep.
That's a year-round sport.
Right.
All the national forests are, open to hog hunting year-round. And, providing you're not in the WMA parts. And Sam Houston is 100% type 2, but like Davy Crockett and the Angelina National Forest, those are, just your hunt license. You can go out there and hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
You don't
it
even
was
have
great.
to purchase your $48 permit. You could just get on out there and, hunt year round.
Because those are
and
national
that-
preserves, right? Is that why they're national
sir.
forests? Okay, that's good to know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And the one thing, like I talked with Chester Moore, our editor in chief, which I know y'all have heard him on my show before. His whole deal is he's written a bunch of stories about sanctuary hogs, and that problem of, some of the national forests not allowing harvest of hogs at night and those kind of things. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, when it becomes a safety issue, I feel like there should be guidelines on it.
Sure.
When it comes to population control, there's things that could be there's things that could be done with dogs and
Right.
other things. We could let dogs go at night and we could run dogs at night.
That would be safe. Yeah, no,
And,
I
would
agree.
and be safe. And there's ways around it, and maybe there's other factors that aren't disclosed at the moment or that I just don't know about.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are.
No,
But,
I'm just kind of throwing it out there because I just think it's one of the things that's a consideration for sure.
And also, a lot of the national forest is actually open to hunting at night. You just have to call the Forestry Service and call the local game wardens and let them know what you're going to be
Yep.
doing and where you're going to be doing.
That you're not spotlighting deer or whatever. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they don't want to be making, if you call them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, when they get the call that say Bubba's out there riding around in his pickup truck drinking beer and shooting deer out the window in July. No.
Yeah, no, I'm with you,
Yeah.
and I think it's good, and it's also good. I'm writing a new ebook that I kind of teased at the last show, and I've started work on it. And one of the things I brought up was having a good relationship with your game warden when you're out there hunting a lot, and I know that's huge for you guys too, because if something does come up, it's always good to be on his good side. And I had something come up in 2014 when I hunted back in 2009, I think is when I started hunting my urban property, and he knew who I was, so he knew I was no threat because I call him and say, hey, here's what I'm hunting every single year. And if he ever gets any calls, I mean, he knew he was dealing with a good guy. And I think that goes with saying with public land too, is have a good relationship if you can with your game warden in that area.
I absolutely
yeah.
agree. And Jeremy is 100% a game warden magnet. So you will be checked.
You will
if
be
you
stopped
go
and
anywhere
checked,
with him.
Jeremy.
You will be stopped and checked. I don't think I've been on a hunt with him, but maybe once this year that we haven't seen a game warden.
Wow.
Yeah,
A
I'm
game
on a
warden.
first name basis with most of the game wardens now. I was
In the state of Texas.
never getting checked.
Yeah.
But actually, like you're saying, being on good terms with your game warden. If you go through my phone, I have probably 20 different game wardens
Wow.
numbers, in my phone. Because every time I meet one, can I get your card? That way, in the event that I see something going on out there that looks suspicious to me, or I see something that's wrong, or if I just have a question.
Sure.
Because that's generally what it boils down to is, hey, I want to go here and hunt this place. Is that okay?
Yep.
Or, hey, I heard that, this core land is available only by walk-in. You can't boat into it. Or this place is only boat-in. You can't walk into it.
Right.
What's the deal with that? And,
Questions.
they'll get, they know the laws. They'll let you know that, hey, that's okay. That happened with the spot that I wanted to go duck hunting.
Mm-hmm.
This year. I couldn't get anybody at the National Wildlife Refuge to return my call.
Really?
So I called the game warden and was like, hey, I'm making a call, middle of the day on a Friday because I'm making a harebrained plan to go,
Sure.
camp out on a barrier island on the edge of a National Wildlife Refuge. And I'm going, I don't know by the letter of the law if that's
Right.
illegal or not.
Right.
And I made the call early, I think Thursday morning. That guy still hadn't called me back. So I was like, well, I got the game warden's number. I called him. He's like, I don't see a problem with it, but you need to call such and such. And he gave me another number instead of the general access line, for the wildlife refuge. And I had to call back within probably half an hour.
Wow. That's great. That's great. And I mean, it's just about doing your homework. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, I was going to jump right off of you there and say, that's part of doing your homework and part of knowing your regulations too. When you're hunting public, that's a huge, huge thing. It's not just the state laws. There's special regulations on certain properties, and you do have to stay up to date on all that stuff because it changes from year to year. Bag limits change from year to year on certain properties. It's not by any means, across the board, all the same rules and regulations.
Right.
So that is a big part of, and takes a big chunk of time, but they give you your cheat sheet every year. They give you your annual hunting permit book if you're going to be hunting, what your $48 allows you to hunt.
Sure. And it's up to you to go through that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's up to you to go through it. And like we were just talking about, if you have any questions or something doesn't make sense, or maybe there's a typo somewhere, that stuff happens, call the game warden. They're going to let you know what's going on.
Oh, that's cool.
And and one of the other things that I have the Texas Parks and Wildlife outdoor annual app installed on my phone.
Yep, I do too.
Yep.
And then, but if you actually scroll down to the bottom of it, there's actually a public land. It will bring up the public lands in an interactive map.
Oh, cool!
Where you
I didn't
can bring
know
it up
that.
and look at. Exactly, and it's the exact page out of your book that you get that has all the specific regulations. Because there was a place me and Trever wanted to go do a late season rifle doe hunt, where it's been legal, years in the past. But when we went to go check it out this year, they changed the regulations this year to where you couldn't hunt
It was archery only doe.
Yeah, or I think they just totally closed the doe days on it. I don't even remember because as soon as we saw that, we're like, well, we're gonna have to wait till muzzle loader.
Well, it was a special regulation. It was a weird one, man, and that's what I'm talking about. It was during archery season only, but you can harvest with a fire. I'm sorry, it was like 2 weeks after archery open season, but you can hunt with a gun in that little period, and it was super weird. So there's some weird regulations.
So that's cool. I mean, you basically download the app. There's offshoots from the app that can help you in your public land search, and this is really cool. I knew this was going to be a fun show because this is hunting opportunity. And one of the guys that I have had on the show before, Michael Foster, we've talked a lot about small game hunting and squirrel hunting. And during the off season right now, we don't really have, in most counties that I'm aware of, we don't really have a limit or a season on, except for parts of East Texas, on squirrel and rabbits. And in a lot of places, and that's great off-season fun, isn't it? Like y'all were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like Jeremy said, we took his kids out last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, excuse me. And we didn't shoot a single squirrel. That's what we were targeting. We didn't shoot a single squirrel, but we got to take his 2 kids out in the woods. And
that's great.
Your kids are 10 and 5?
5.
Yeah, 10 and 5. So I mean, they had a blast, and your son got his new 20 gauge, and he got to shoot it a little bit, and your daughter just has a blast, tromping around through the forest.
Sure.
So she's definitely a daddy's girl, and they both had a blast.
I love watching kids have fun in the outdoors, man. I mean,
Yes,
this
sir.
is just, and I talked earlier about that elk hunt that I filmed and I just went live with today. And this will be last week when you guys hear this podcast out there in podcast land. But the kiddo that killed the 6x6 elk was 16 years old. And just to see the smile on his face of killing a bull that nice. It's just one of those things. I mean, he's not a kid anymore. He's darn near an adult, but I mean, he's still a youth and he's still successful in the field. And I mean, I can't think of something that I like more is just to get kids out there and really enjoying and consuming the outdoor lifestyle.
And he's going to remember that for the
definitely.
rest of his life.
Yep, that's right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was exciting to watch him put that move on that elk, go stalking it through the trees like that. It was.
Thanks.
I have to admit, I was a little bit jealous.
Yeah, no, I get that. But yeah, I just went live on that on Facebook today, and it's had a lot of really good, a lot of good exposure and a lot of good comments on it and everything. But it's just this is our next generation. Getting them involved and getting them connected and getting them, because my son, I took him bass fishing, or actually we were just going to bluegill fishing for one of the local parks we go to here, and we ended up feeding the ducks. We just ended up hanging out, and we caught one bass, a little one, and it wasn't really, the fish were still deep because it's still cold. But they, we were just doing some shore fishing, and I mean, it's just all about getting them out there, and you guys know that. So
yeah, you got to be willing to be adaptable.
Right, that's a good way to put it.
Little one.
Right.
I got another one for y'all off of TPWD's website, since
Sure.
we're on the topic of kids now. They offer a mentored hunting workshop. And I'll just read a little excerpt here. Is select state parks and wildlife management areas will be conducting mentored hunting workshops designed to introduce and educate beginning hunters and their mentors into the hunting experience.
Oh, that's good. That's real good.
Yes, sir.
I love that kind of stuff that our state puts on like that. It's kind of like this week that the show's going to go live. I've got an article coming out about the shad laws. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but Texas Parks and Wildlife last April changed their laws on how to transport shad to stop the spread of zebra mussels. I wrote that article in an effort to educate our audience at fishgame.com and Texas Fish and Game, just because a lot of guys that don't understand the rules, and you guys know this about public land hunting, if you don't stay up on the rules and don't really know what they are and are confused by it, you just shrug it off and do what you've always done, and their ignorance of the law is no excuse, as they say. So I always say it's good to be prudent, and it's good to do your homework, like we've kind of been the theme of the show.
Yeah, one of those shad laws, Trever actually made a joke because I have a big 256-quart igloo cooler. He's like, hey, one of these times when we go fishing, make sure you don't put your shad in there with your catfish.
That's right. That's a big no-no now.
Yep.
You're gonna need a permit to do that. Yeah, you need a $60 permit to do that now. So that's the one difference. But yeah. And no, I just kind of thought I brought that up because it made me think about public land. You've really got to be in the know of what you're doing to make sure you're following the law. And I wanted to definitely bring that up. So that's funny. Yeah,
we actually just posted up today when TPWD released the 2018-2019, their proposed regulations. Mm-hmm. And right now they're allowing everybody to come in and make comments, and so they'll take all of that into account,
right,
and possibly make edits from just the general public commenting on it. And that's a great thing to have.
It's a great form to have, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's really cool. Whether or not they use it, it's super cool, and you get a little sneak peek into what's to come in the next season.
Well, it's kind of like
and it definitely gives you a chance.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dustin.
No, you go ahead.
Well, yeah, like I said, it definitely gives you, it gives you a voice. It lets your voice be heard.
Right.
It will be considered. And it will be heard. Whenever you in the public comment period, whenever you put it out there. That's the way that they, they're looking at modifying possibly the East Texas hunting season to have it coincide, to make one deer season all across Texas.
Right, a statewide season, right.
Because I know that's been a contentious point for years over in East Texas, the fact that them boys down in South Texas get to hunt for an extra 2 weeks.
Right, and that's not fair to the guys in East Texas. I was also going to say one of the things that I think they're considering this year statewide is air guns for deer, for native game, not just for exotics and hogs. And I don't know if you two have watched my hog hunting video I've done at DB Hunting Ranch with the Air Force Texan, but that's a 45 caliber air rifle, and I dropped a hog like a sack of potatoes. It was a neck shot and everything, and it was a good shot. But the thing is, that's a more than ample weapon for harvesting deer. It's just that there's ignorance, and people don't understand that air guns have come a long way. And I'm excited to see something like that pass in the future. A lot of other states have done that with air guns, have seen how PCP air guns work and how powerful they are. And that's the kind of thing I'm kind of excited about right now.
I'm trying to steer clear of that because I'm going to spend all of my money if I get too invested in any of that.
All your money's gone, right?
Yep. I can't have another obsession right now. I got too many already.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're also looking at legalizing air bows too during.
Yes,
right.
that's the other thing I was going to bring up. I'm glad you said that.
The couple of concept ones are super, super cool, man. The videos on those are awesome.
Right, and then the Pioneer Crossman has the Benjamin Pioneer airbow that runs out at, I think, 450 feet per second, which is faster than any crossbow's ever been. It's well over 400. I know that. It's at least 4.25 or 450, but it'll sing through there. I mean, the drop's going to be a lot less, and that's the thing that I'm kind of excited about is that's an ample weapon, too. Jim Shockey's killed a buffalo, and there's other guys that have killed buffalo and other large game with them to show that they can be ample, hunting weapons, ample harvesting tools that we use in hunting. And I'm just kind of excited about where all this is going because the technology is continuing to improve, and we as the consumer and media guys like me, get to have all the fun with doing this kind of stuff in the outdoors. It just continues to get better and better is my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's definitely the way the outdoor industry seems like it's going, is that the products just seem to improve leaps and bounds every 3 to 5 years. It seems like it's taken not just a small step forward, it's taken a big leap forward.
Right.
We've gone with all the technical type clothing systems and camo systems now, that'll cover you all the way from early season till to a alpine goat hunt.
Right.
It's all a system that builds in, and it's just amazing. That stuff was mountaineering clothing a few years ago,
yes.
And now you can buy it in camo.
That's true. That's very true.
I think a lot of the people there they can really understand the conservation side of when people start talking about hunting fuels the conservation. How much of your license goes to the conservation. I think people can really get behind that, and it's an honest way of really showing people that we have the best interest at heart.
Right. Exactly. No, that's solid. And I mean, that's the whole thing that hunters get a lot of flack for is, you're killing poor innocent animals and defenseless animals. They're not defenseless, man. They've got better hearing, better eyesight, better noses, especially hogs. I had Rex Holmes on the show back around Christmas, and he said that, I don't know where he got this from, but he said, one of those mints you get from Sonic, the little peppermints. He said that a feral hog could smell one 7 feet deep underground.
Well, I've been burying soured corn for the past 2 weeks now, and I think after listening to that podcast, and I've been doing the classic Kool-Aid corn water,
right,
and letting it rot in the 5-gallon bucket. And where I'm hunting public, I gotta hike that 5-gallon bucket on my back.
Yep.
So I've been taking it in. I dug the hole, dumped it in, buried it, covered it up, packed it on there, and I came. That was 2 weekends ago when we were out squirrel hunting. Came back 2 days ago, the next week, 7 days later, they'd ate 40 pounds of corn.
Golly.
And not left one kernel left, man. And I took pictures of, when I first placed the corn in there, then the empty hole I came back to, then I put more corn in, took another picture. So I'm going to try and get out there about 4 days from when I put it out and see what they do in 4 days.
Yeah. See if you can get a stock up on one or stand hunt it. And I love this stuff. I mean, because you just think about, you put food in your freezer every year. We're doing fish tomorrow. I think I've got some catfish fillets that I've got, and just all the stuff that we do in the outdoors. It's the thing that you guys have helped me remember is it's time to grill and chill sometimes. It's not all about just going, getting, and it's time to enjoy a lot of the fruits of our labor. That I forget sometimes because I get so involved in all the different technicalities of it all. You know what I'm saying?
We get guilty of it as well. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, but definitely, like, one of the highlights of it is, when you go out to your freezer and you pull out, that back strap or that fish or whatever it is, and like I've got some redfish that I've filleted on the half shell that I'm gonna pull out here in a day or two.
I love that.
And throw on the grill.
Yep.
We'll do them with butter, lemon wedges, and Tony Chachere's, and just take them and put them on a high heat grill till it flakes, and then pull them off.
That sounds so good. I love it.
It's dinner time around here, guys.
Yeah,
that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I guarantee when I pull that fish out and I'm sitting there on my back porch watching that grill, I'm going to think back to that casting blast where I was down there on the coast, and I'm going to remember that group of pintails that just worked in, just absolutely perfectly. And I pulled up and shot my pintail, and my buddy pulled up and he didn't shoot, and then he shot and he missed, and I was like, "Why did you wait so long to shoot?" He's like, "I pulled up on a hen."
That's great. No, it's awesome. But you guys have been awesome guests, and I just want to thank you guys again for being on the show. Just give us the basics on what we've talked about as far as, what you need to look for in public land, what you need to do your homework. Just kind of give us a rundown of everything before we close this one out.
You want to take
All
that
right.
one?
Well, to start with on hunting public land is, make sure you get your APH. Make sure you do your research, check your regulations, and have a plan going in, but be adaptable.
Sure.
There's lots of good tools out there. There's Google Maps. There's Google Earth where you can click back in time to different seasons so you can see the different vegetation. It may have changed dramatically, but it may be, similar enough to get you started, and always make sure you do your scouting first. And, don't be afraid to put in the extra effort whenever you're hunting public. Going the extra effort, will get you back where most people aren't willing to go.
Right. And that's the one thing that I've learned, to both of y'all's points, that Michael Foster has taught me about hunting in Granger, because he hunts Granger quite a bit in that WMA. And he basically says that, the front of the entrance of one of the areas is full of trash. And he said, people just don't respect the land. And I said, well, you do. And that makes a difference. And he said the other thing is that I don't want my stuff to get stolen, so I'm going to go hike way back in the woods, where it can't be seen as easily and can't be in major traffic beds and stuff like that of people passing through there. That's what you guys are saying too, right?
Well, Dustin, I had a camera on that piece of property 3 miles from the access point, and it got stolen.
Oh, wow.
So,
3 miles in too.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. 3 miles in, man. Scouting for hogs, just doing my thing, and it got stolen. A lot of my stuff got moved, and it was just it was a bad day. But you can never be too safe out there. I just hung a new camera at a different property, and that sucker's 12 foot up in a tree looking down at the trail. Honestly,
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Should be easily found that way. Yeah, no, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one thing, is just obviously to respect public land too. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing that we always do is we always, try to pack out more trash than we brought in, because that public land is not just used by hunters and fishermen. A lot of those WMAs have hiking trails and stuff like that. And unfortunately, with the fact that, a lot of our law enforcement is spread so thin, like you were bringing up Granger, like that's used, one of our favorite spots, mid-season, to go dove hunting is out there on that property.
Sure.
But, one of the places where we go, people use the parking lot down there as a trash dump. You'll go down there and you'll find, couches and all kinds of different stuff. But, we always try to, bring a couple, empty Walmart sacks and just fill them up on the way in, and that's, kind of our motto is to, leave it better than we found.
Right. I think that's great. I'm so glad y'all said that too, because that needs to be reminded to our young hunters, especially, that, if you leave places better than you found it, you're leaving it for the generation after you. You're leaving it for the hunters that come after you. You're leaving it for the wildlife that comes after you and everything. So what else do you guys want to talk about? What else have we not covered so far? Because y'all done a great job on this podcast for sure.
I think we've covered quite a bit.
Sure.
And, we keep talking about going further and doing more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's not a bad thing. That makes me a better hunter.
Sure.
It makes me put in the effort more, so much more effort. I get to see more wildlife.
Right.
I get to interact with more things. I get to spend more time in the woods than the other guys that hunt right in the gate.
Yep. That's good. That's solid.
That's super valued to me.
Because that's really what hunting is all about, is going deeper, doing, and that's in this book that I'm writing right now, this ebook. I'm basically talking about people that want to be successful in this industry. You've got to go harder than the other guys that just do this for fun. If you've got a podcast, you want to get it out there in more places. If you got, that kind of stuff. So, I really honor you guys for what y'all do on your show. I want to thank you. Maybe one day I can hopefully be a guest on your show too. That would be great.
Absolutely.
But,
We'd love to have you on, Dustin.
No, I appreciate that very much. And you guys typically do a Skype call, and I know I typically do phone. But the main thing I wanted to bring home is y'all have your own Facebook group and y'all own Facebook page, right? Is that true, or is it just a group?
It's both.
It's a page.
Correct.
A page?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good deal. So Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast, find it on iTunes. You can also find it through Facebook and subscribe to it through through different places like that, right?
Yes, sir.
No,
it's on all of the major platforms for wherever you find your podcast.
Same deal as this one, yeah.
Same deal, yeah. So Stitcher,
and
iTunes,
it's also,
all that stuff.
Yeah, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and it's also we do the same thing as you. We simulcast it on YouTube as well.
Right.
Sometimes you get to see me and Trever talking on Skype. Other times it'll just be just a logo.
The logo, yeah,
Just
that's like
depends
mine.
on how well done.
But I want to thank you guys so much again for joining us, and we'll definitely check out your show as well.
Thanks, Dustin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Really appreciate it.
And there they go, Mr. Trever Bryan and Jeremy Beaston from the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast. Love these guys. Plan to be on their show one of these days soon, and plan to have them back on one of these days soon as well, because they're just a wealth of knowledge, especially around public land stuff, because they go hard in the paint. They don't quit. They keep on going, through the challenges, through the rough patches. No matter what, they persevere. That's the thing I've always liked about them. They never talk down about public land hunting like a lot of hunters I talk to do, and just some really great information there in this show to share with you on how to get out there and make things happen in the outdoors. Now, I also wanted to mention that I've not talked a lot about public land hunting, but what I always want to do in this show is make the outdoors more accessible to everybody, and public land does that. You just have to go a little bit harder and deeper into the woods to find your own little niche in there that you're not, being crowded on by other hunters. And I think that's what they showed on this podcast very well. Is it can be done successfully as long as you are smart about what you do and you're planning and you're scouting and so on and so forth and what you do. So whether you hunt with a crossbow, a rifle, a muzzleloader, a shotgun, small game, big game, hogs, there is certainly a lot to consider in the regards of taking hunting property that's publicly owned or publicly leased for the public, and is set aside for hunters, and being safe out there, being careful, always wearing your hunted orange, which is a mandatory thing on Texas public lands. And I just love the fact that these guys are taking the bull by the horns when it comes to going through the challenges and that kind of stuff that comes sometimes from hunting public land, and really going forth and being successful at it. And that's the one thing I really think that they have a lot of good concepts around on their podcast. So definitely check out the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast. Please also subscribe or stream our podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Podbean, as well as your fishgame.com. And please subscribe if you've not done so already to our show, as well as to the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast. And also wanted to mention to subscribe to our newsletters. We have the Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. These have kind of national stories on them, and really good things to help you with the outdoors. The national news of Texas, as we call it at Texas Fishing Game. And there's a lot to be done to check out, a lot to learn about wildlife biology, guns, hunting, fishing, saltwater, freshwater strategies. All that stuff is in those newsletters, and that all links back to the stories at fishgame.com. We also have some great sponsors and advertisers. This past week, before this show released, we had Capital Farm Credit, and we wanted to give a big thank you to them for advertising with us in the newsletter as well as in the magazine. And lots of fun. So I'm so excited that you've taken the opportunity to download the show, stream it online, however you're listening. Thank you so much for doing so. Thank you for watching, reading, and listening, and have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.